Welcome to another episode of OG55. I got the Italiano and Mr. Hey Bricky is in the house. We are talking all about the Coco boat ride. We'll talk Hyperion, Disneyland 4, the expansion. We have a lot on the table today. We got myself, Italiano, and Bricky. You can't get more West Coast than that. Let's go.
I ain't got nothing to say but West Side.
Yes.
Just rocking out, dude. Love it.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Thank you all so much for watching or joining us on this episode of OG55. We got Hey Bricky in the house. If you are a fan of OG55, you are very familiar with Mr. Hey Bricky. We react to a lot of his content because it's absolutely brilliant, and we are huge fans, and he's a friend of ours. Mr. Bricky, welcome back, sir.
Good to be here. I would just like to address that I don't believe in fans. I only believe in friends. And I'm so happy that both of you came into our world and became my friends, because it's been really fun to be a part of a community where people appreciate the parks from the same way that I do. And I don't get to watch every video, but I do love watching you and your chamber of other nerds breaking all of this down. And it just makes my little designer heart so happy. And I want to say, OG, you've done a really good job of like sort of cultivating, like, you know, a lot of channels that are newer and trying to find their lane. YouTube's one of the hardest things ever to break into. So I really think you've done a good job of making a home for all these different creators and stuff. And
well, thank you, Bricky. I do appreciate that, brother. And if you are watching OG55 for the first time and you're not familiar with Mr. Bricky, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
they can find me in two places over on the YouTube. You can find me over on my main channel, Hey Bricky, where we study Disneyland's past to better predict the future. And you can find me on the Bricky Vlog, which is a project that I started at the end of May. It's kind of my no rules, just get creative channel. Like sometimes we're in Disney park, sometimes it's my personal life, sometimes we're just doing things with me and my wife. It's just kind of like a 360 view of what it's like to be a professional creative.
There he is. There he is. I'll be linking his channels down below, so make sure you subscribe and show him some love if you haven't already subscribed. And I got the Italiano along with his chest hair in the studio today.
Wild.
Welcome. Look at that. Look at that, George.
Wild look, dude.
Dude, like this has its own zip code.
Yeah, I mean, it has something. I'll tell you that. It has something. Like it looks so coarse. Like you're like, oh man, I'm never gonna get those eggs out of that skillet. Hey, can I rub this pot and pan across your chest there, George, and get it off? But he is the Italiano, so hey, there's no problems over here. Give me that salsa. I'm gonna scrub that thing off right now. Let's go.
You just feel like, that's fantastic, Mr. Italiano. Where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. Well, you can find me right here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news. And you know what? I had it in my head the whole entire time up until the last second. Okay, for all you folks who don't know, let me redo that. With all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes bricky Disney news and info.
There he is. There he is. All right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and tackle all this nerdy stuff that we love so much. So, Bricky, you did a fantastic video. I think it was just a couple of days ago, actually. And a lot of people in our nerd space, they're not really talking about this. The whole video was about new permits show first signs of DCA expanding into the Simba Lot. And I'll be linking this video in particular down below so everyone at home can check out the entire video. But Bricky, you want to set the table as to what is going on here with this permit?
Yeah, so I was at the park last week filming for the main channel and the vlog, and I was just calling it a wrap up for the day. And I did my final check-in at the different news outlets that I follow, and OC Register posted this article, and it was super casual. Coco building permits have been filed, for the ride. And so I'm like, okay, cool, they're actually starting on the ride. But when I looked into it, I'm like, oh, they're missing the big picture here. And I saw other people cover it the same way, permits filed for Coco. So what was so different and interesting about these permits versus the ones that were filed for Avengers Campus, where, keep in mind, there are 2 attractions going in at Avengers Campus. So theoretically, a whole lot more space. And they started inside the park. everything that they're doing right now is on the other side of the backstage service access road. Our friends over at Mice Chat did an aerial photograph last week that was super helpful for everybody that's been kind of wondering like what's going on. And so we now know that they've got the entire backstage just taken down to dirt. And so when I read this permit, it didn't say anything about backstage. It said we're starting with sidewalks, walkways, road reshaping, fencing, landscaping, basically everything before you get to the park. So that instantly told me, and when this news broke and I asked OG to be on with me live that night, when I had a feeling that maybe that news was going to break, little birdie gave me a heads up that it was coming down the pipe. And I watched the 3 photos that they put out. And as I reviewed it, I said right off the bat, I'm like, if they go beyond the perimeter and get into the aerial hidden Mickey, that will absolutely be an indication to everybody that they're making the park bigger and that Disneyland Forward will have begun. Because while they're back there doing all this, I'm not saying they're going to build a bridge this summer or this fall or in the next 2 years, but you damn well know that they're going to create the expansion pad where that bridge is one day going to go. That's going to be kind of just, when we walk in there, a trained eye will be like, it's that wall right there. Like those of us that know where they put the portals will be able to see it. But there's 100% going to be some area where they expand over there. And like I said, this is one family boat ride that right now, without taking anything out and just moving around the backstage spaces, and we can talk about that later, it's a small world would fit back there. Why do you need more room? Well, because you're editing your park, not for one attraction, you're editing it for the future.
That's amazing. And do you think that it's possible? Because, obviously, Latin culture is massive in California. It's part of our DNA out here in California. Do you think that this is maybe a signal that we're going to get a bigger, Latin land? Like, is it possible that we have a Coco thing that kind of bleeds into like an Encanto thing and what have you? Is that kind of like the mindset that you're kind of going with right now, Bricky? Or what do you feel about that?
I think that tossing Encanto into it is putting the cart in front of the horse. Like I can't speculate about that at all. That an Encanto thing would also fit in there. You also got to keep in mind that once the Encanto attraction goes up at Animal Kingdom, there will now be a standard set for an Encanto attraction. So if DCA doesn't deliver to that moment, it will be considered a failure. And Disney, to keep shareholders happy and to keep fans happy, they always have to try to outdo themselves. So if you're going to do a small Encanto attraction first, you would have already taken the space where Goofy Sky School is and transformed it over to Encanto. However, I think that they would be absolutely missing the point if they didn't transform some area of this into, a Latino Mexican themed pavilion somewhere. And when I say pavilion, don't think, we're going to get something like what they have out at Epcot and World Showcase, but you'd really be not reading the room if you didn't do this. So let's look over at the Paradise Garden area where Boardwalk Pizza is.
Right.
A lot of people see that as the bridge to the future. It can't be. It's perfectly aligned with the Pixar Hotel. So if you're going to keep anything, you're going to keep something there because it's going to block out a majority of the Pixar Place Hotel. Nobody cares about Boardwalk Pizza. I don't care. Oh, it's the best pizza in the park. Well, you'll like the new thing. The restaurant next to it, Paradise Garden Grill. What are you, bro? You were Greek once. You were barbecue once. You've been Mexican before, and you went back to other things. Like, it literally has zero identity. So why would you not somehow combine that with all of this? Especially when we think about grading the land, we're going to have 3 things that have to happen in this spot. Parades, probably on a ground level, are going to need to be able to leave a parade building and get out on the stage. So that's what has to happen at what we would refer to as like a surface level. But at some point, you probably should go into something that creates an incline that takes you over to a Coco attraction. Why not put that where Boardwalk Pizza is today? And then the other thing that's going to have to happen is maybe when we're on our way to Coco, if it is indeed tucked behind the Incredicoaster, but somewhere along that journey, we're also going to need to just go across a sky bridge that will take us into the future theme park. So they've got a lot to kind of figure out in this area. Removing the hidden Mickey gives them the flexibility to push that outer road all the way up to the edge of the park, right? And a lot of people would look at this and go, well, that's not that much space. Well, it is when you think about this. As I illustrated in my video, you take the parade building. So many fans are like, well, they can't do that. That's where the parade building's at. The parade building is literally the easiest building to rebuild. It's just a giant barn. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have like any crazy infrastructure in it. I've been in the parade building at Walt Disney World. Like, it's literally just a warehouse that they keep floats in. And dude, they are parked like just dick to butt. I mean, they are so close in there. So you could easily take the parade building and make that parallel with what we know today as Disneyland Drive. Okay. So now your parade is on the farthest out edge, which gives it the furthest distance for any sort of, bridge or whatever that needs to swing over the top of the parade performers and floats. But once you do that, then it's just clean shot behind Coco or behind the Incredicoaster. Because largely what they use this area for, if you look in on the satellite Earth, and I've been informed this by cast members, it's largely just kind of like where they just toss all their outdoor vending carts. So, even a different structure that whole houses, that could be good. I mean, if we think about multi-plane design, we think about moving around, there's more than enough space to make all this work. So sorry, long-winded answers are just kind of like, the problem is if you only tell one part of the story, somebody goes, well, that's all good, Buzzy, but where are they going to put the parades at? So you kind of have to like tell all the pieces together because it's so intertwined on how they're going to have to do this. And guys, this is the shit that I love the most. I will care more about the construction of Coco than the actual ride. I mean, I'm sure the ride's going to be sick, but like this right here, this is sports, man. My team against yours. People think this will happen. People think this won't happen. Like, I'm not going to get it all right, but I'm so excited to see what I do get right. And I'm even more excited to see what I get wrong, because what I get wrong will inform their decision making. Because I have thought about it from the most optimal way. If they do something different, I'll easily be able to go like, new park's not happening, guys. Like, I'll be able to see that early on what they're doing.
Well, and I love this because it shows ambition. And one of the things that I've always wanted Disney to do is get more serious about DCA. It sits just feet away from the park that Walt Disney built. Yeah, you gotta, like, it'll never be Disneyland, but get it as close as possibly, get it as close as humanly possible to that level of ambition. And if what we're seeing here is going to happen where they're really moving things around to get this done right, I absolutely love that. I love that. And if they can keep the parades like you were suggesting, Bricky, that's even better. You know what I'm saying? This park needs parades. I think I would be very sad to see them go. And like you were saying, Bricky, I think it was in your video about the parades, you were saying that the Boogie Bash is a huge moneymaker for them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the ways that Disney's been really clever is that you always need to make more money when you're a publicly traded company, right? But here's the problem. You can only raise ticket prices so high so quickly. I bet they already know what they want their ticket price to be for like 2030. And every year is just an incremental step to get to whatever that like goal is. And then they'll reset it for 2035. But you can only sell so many tickets and you can only sell them for so much money. So how do you make more money? You make more days. How do you make more days? You double sell the park. How do you double sell the park? You let everybody who wants to come in at rope drop stay till 6 o'clock. Then they have to leave because at 3 o'clock, you double sold the park for an after hours event. And you don't sell as many tickets so that it feels special, but you sell enough tickets to get to your revenue goal. And most importantly, you also sell tickets to people like me that don't buy tickets, right? So that's how you take the maxed out top tier customer and go, Daddy Iger needs another 140 from you, Bricky. And I sit there and go 10, 20, 30.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Mr. Italiano, what are your thoughts on this, brother?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. But Bricky, I wanted to ask you, because you had mentioned with the parades.
Yeah.
When it comes to the parade route, because we were talking about that end of the park where where Coco is, but when it comes to the parade route itself, where it could possibly run into the area of Pandora, what say you on that? Like, would that disrupt where the parade would go into the Pandora area, or would it be further back where it wouldn't even matter?
All right, that's a good question, because when it comes to Pandora, I just don't see any way where you're actively inside of Pandora on what we now today know as Hollywood Boulevard. Okay. So like Hollywood Boulevard needs to stay as a road. Now we're not talking about the theming, but it needs to stay as a road just because that's how the loop of the park works. Okay. So Hollywood Boulevard is going to stay. If everything that we know as the Hollywood land or Hollywood backlot becomes Avatar, the only thing that you would have at the very edge of Hollywood Boulevard would be facade work, rock work, and some sort of green space, right? If they do that, it will be recessed back to where all those buildings start right now, and there will be room for a parade area there. Like, here's the thing about a parade. Whenever you're celebrating an anniversary or you're doing a summer-wide theme, and keep in mind, like on my live stream, I do the old Disney news. And so I've gone back to 1955, January 1. And every day this year, I have read every headline in California that has the word Disneyland in it from January 1st to today in 1955. Back then they did this, and they still do this today. The reason why they have annual events, like you remember the shitty Summer of Heroes that they had before Avengers Campus opened up? The reason why they do that is it gives Disney the availability to go around to all the media outlets and say, hey, it's summer 2016, and we're doing, or whatever year that was, 2018, 2019, we're doing Disney Summer of Heroes. It's a great chance to come back to Disney. We've opened up this, we've opened up, like, the events are talking points. Talking points are free advertising, free marketing moments, and they like motivate people to come back to the park. A big way of that is parades and cavalcades, right? Like, you already have those performers. A lot of those floats get reskinned and get used over and over again. Like, if you go back and look at old Disney footage, like, they're still using that in the cavalcades. Like, Super Bowl heroes have been going down the same thing forever. So you're not going to get rid of a parade because it's an easy add-on value. So if Avatar does go in that area, whatever's closest to Hollywood Boulevard, in my estimation, would be some sort of green space, some sort of rock work space. I mean, I have it starting back further than most people do, just because, once again, that's sales. That's a place to capture people. And also, too, what a lot of people aren't looking at is they rent a building in the Hollywood backlot for weddings and special events. They also use the theater for special events and for like rental things. So they don't like to get rid of things that make extra revenue. So I'm not just looking at it as from like, I don't give a shit about smoothies. Like it's more about how that space creates lots of different vending and stuff. So yeah, I would be shocked if Avatar started at, say, where PhilharMagic's at. Yeah. And if you just walk through a hole there and now you're in it, and that street doesn't go around, or that street bends to take you around, I would literally be, because like, then what does Animation Courtyard look at? Because if you get rid of Animation Courtyard, now Avengers Campus is touching with Avatar. So that means they have to put a whole other state-of-the-art attraction in there. That means they have to stitch everything together, and that's getting like massive. Now we've gone from like replicating a boat ride that we've already built once over in Shanghai, and it's kind of all easy, like just reset, dress it, redo it together. Now we're getting into like a Galaxy's Edge, like $1 billion development, where we're just basically destroying a huge section of the park. I don't see that happening. They haven't indicated that that's going to happen. And like, I mean, would you bet that big on Avatar? Like, I'd bet as big as they're going to bet on it, but I wouldn't bet that big on Avatar to give it a space that's now bigger than Avengers and bigger than Star Wars.
Yeah,
I just find it very interesting, like that section, to put in Avatar, because, kind of going like back and forth, we were thinking, okay, is it going to go there, or is it going to go in the Simba Lot? And the argument was, okay, they would put it in the Simba Lot because it gives them a blank canvas. They have more creative power, and also you're tying James Cameron into this as well. So, and James Cameron is a stickler when it comes to detail. So I'm curious to know what Disney could have possibly offered him, like in that meeting behind closed doors, to say that Hollywoodland would work better for Pandora than the Simba.
Well, and here's the thing that we don't know. he's very secretive about these movies too, and we heard at D23 from JD from Josh that this land is based on the next 3 films.
Yeah.
So there might be that, for all we know, Hollywood is where James Cameron wanted it, like out the gate, because there is some kind of Earth connection that is in these movies that we're not aware of, where Hollywood makes the most sense actually. But we don't know that because we don't know what any of these movies are about, you know?
I mean, keep in mind that James Cameron is a filmmaker. And when you're a filmmaker, you see opportunities, not obstacles, because you can look at any city and be like, we're going to turn this into Manhattan, or we're going to turn this into Pandora. So if they're like, hey, if they just pitched him the raw numbers, in our Hollywood backlot, we have X amount of square feet that we're going to convert over to Pandora. You know, as soon as he hears like 350,000 square feet that's going to be going to Pandora or whatever, as soon as he hears that it's going to be big, he's like, let's go. He doesn't care if it's in the parking lot or Hollywood land. And he also knows that he's working with Disney. And he knows that he's working specifically with Disney California, where all of that stuff matters just a little bit more. I mean, Hollywood Studios is also a studio park, but you cannot deny that it lacks a lot of the finesse and the attention to detail that California Adventure has. Like,
Sure.
I know that it's older, but it is way lazier in its design. So California does get a lift because this is where the executives live. This is where Hollywood lives. It's a more sophisticated customer. They spend more. They have a richer lifestyle. They expect more. Like, they always go harder on California, not because they're nice people, but because they have to. This is where they live. This is where their boss sees their work the most.
Yeah, no, well said, well said. Now, when you go down Hollywood Boulevard, and you're going to go down Hollywood Boulevard, and to your left will be Pandora. Like, in our heads, it's really hard to imagine that, because right now it looks totally different, right? With Pandora there, it's going to be a completely different situation. But here's the thing that I think a lot of fans need to keep in mind too. We have Buena Vista Street. When you walk into DCA, you have an urban street, a Los Angeles, essentially, right? I mean, it's LA, basically.
1920.
1920, yeah, exactly. And you walk down Buena Vista Street, and to your right, when you're barely past the candy shop, to your right is Grizzly Peak. The Grizzly area. So you kind of already have this dynamic in the park where you have the urban setting, and then to your right is the lush, organic looking scenic thing. And I mean, it's not impossible for them to do kind of mimic that, I think, with Hollywood Boulevard and Pandora, right?
You're absolutely right. And so it's not impossible to think that green space will edge up with Hollywood Boulevard on its north side. That would be the Disneyland side of the road. You're not wrong in thinking that at all. Now, a complete wooded takeover would be very hard, because then that would mean that they're going to lose all the buildings on the south side of the street. Right. Okay. So now what do we do with Off the Page? What do we do with Animation Courtyard or Studio, whatever it's called? What do we do with these buildings over here? Because if they take those buildings out, then it gets difficult, unless those do become, converted over to Pandora-centric shopping and dining. But again, that's getting into a really, really large footprint. You know what I mean? Like a huge footprint. And then you get up to the moment of like, well, then what do you do with the Hyperion? How does the theater exist in between the natural world of Avatar and the urban world of Avengers Campus? Does the theater become a part of Avengers Campus? Like, who knows? Like, I don't think that they take the theater down. Just because it has a high long-term potential of easy entertainment in the parks. They ignore it right now because it's convenient to.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they shut it down before COVID. They brought back a show. It did well. It sold tickets, but that show was way more about being an audition for a bigger traveling production or a Broadway production. They put way too much money and effort into that just to do it for as little as they did at the park. That had to be a demo for something much, much larger. But that theater space, it's not like a game changer for how much more, because then, like, how much Avatar are we talking about here? You know what I mean? Like, I'd give all of that to Avengers before I'd give it to Avatar. I mean, sure. Avatar's tens of movies, tens of more are going to come. Eventually, Avatar will hit a moment where, like, okay, that's it. That's enough. And for many fans, that was after the first movie. So, I mean, the theater offers a really quick fix. and you don't want to get rid of things in business that are easy money. So like they max out the park. They right now have all this revenue built on attractions. Well, when they get the 4 attractions and they get everything dialed in, what are they going to need to keep people circulating back? Because now the park's pegged. You can't put anything else into it after you build these 4. Then you can only take things down and replace them with better things. And you're not going to do that all the time. So now how do you get people to come back? Well, I know. A new theme. What's a new theme mean? It needs a new parade. What else do? You offer a new show. How do you do that? You have a world-class theater that's sitting right there in between 2 of your most popular lands. Like, I just can't see them getting rid of it.
Now, do you think it's possible, Ricky, that we get a updated like theater, like we get like an indoor lobby, we get more of a fleshed out facade and kind of get rid of this back lotty kind of vibe? You think it's possible Disney might put some serious investment into this theater and make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing and actually even more workable? Because you know, if you were to add an indoor lobby and you could even add a bathroom in there or something, right?
Oh, I mean, come on, now you ask for too much.
You know what I'm saying?
Everybody knows that when you go in there, you get free popcorn and a piss bucket, and then the rest of it's all on you.
Exactly. But what do you think? You think that's realistic? You think that maybe we'll eventually get some beautification of that space to kind of get it into more of a top tier Disney park?
It gets difficult, right? Because you're bringing up a perfect point. It's designed to look like it's on a Hollywood backlot.
Yeah.
What happens when it's no longer on a Hollywood backlot? Is it now just the shittiest theater that ever existed? You know what I mean? Like, is it like a scam now? Like, don't go there, they'll steal your watch. Hey, that's the place where Bruce Wayne's parents got murdered because it's that shady. Yeah, I mean, it might need a little something extra, but then again, it might get something a little bit extra when it needs to contextually fit in with whatever goes north of it for Avatar. I mean, right. I've always been a huge fan of them taking the exterior stairwell that you can see right when you walk out of Mission Breakout and just like put a city facade over that. You know what I mean? Like just easily. I mean, that's just basic like Hollywood set work 101. Put a facade over it so it just feels like there's a little bit more city when you get to the end or beginning of Avengers Campus. But I don't know, like if they do take it out, it should be for really good reason and really good cause, because the way I see it right now, they kind of don't need it. You know what I mean? Unless they really want to go another attraction for Avengers Campus. I mean, maybe, but after doing 4 attractions, they're not going to build any new stuff. Like, do they want to go that hard on Avatar, or do they just want to keep it for the easy wins? Because like you only build so many attractions, but easy wins for those of us that follow the news cycle, it's what you see month in and month out. You know, it's like, That's why they have all these different events, all these, you know, soulfully, you know, Lunar New Year. It's just like, what can we do to make sure we always have something happening? You know what I mean? Food festival then, food festival now. Like it just, those are the things that quietly make so much money with minimal investment. That's what investors look for.
Yeah, and they rent out that Hyperion, right, for like corporate stuff, I think, and all that, right? You were telling me
corporate stuff. They do internal stuff of their own in there. Like it is getting used, not just for, it's just not getting used for guests, and that's just kind of all part of the way I see it. Is just like sort of like we don't need to. The park's slammed. We're saving our money for all this big infrastructure stuff that we have going. Like we don't need to put Aladdin in there. Like there's kind of the idea of like, and people don't want to hear me say this, but it's like you give your kids too many toys. They don't know what to play with. It's all about supply and demand. And DCA is buzzing right now. You know what I mean? Like it's profitable. It's where they needed to be. Things like that show up when things slow down. And they just use COVID as a really good, like emotional reboot to slowly give things back when they need them. So everything that's come back has come back when Disney needed it to come back. Not just because fans go, oh, there's not this in the park anymore. You know what I mean? And when it does come back, what happens? It pops, becomes a celebration. Holy shit, Tinkerbell's back. You know what I mean? Like it becomes bigger than life once it finally happens. Yeah. Now,
what's your thoughts on this whole? And then we're going to move to Avengers Campus, but I want to get your thoughts on this whole red car trolley thing. Now, the official word from Disney was they got rid of the red car because of the trolley barn, because we're putting in that e-ticket and the trolley barn is right there. It had to go. Obviously that's true, because we're going to get into it with the land clearing and stuff. But like, do you think there's more to that with this red car trolley? Like, do you think that there's something else in there that where they're like, well, you know what? any other theories you might have for that, or do you believe like what basically Disney's saying? It's the barn.
I believe wholeheartedly that it was just like, okay, we have this attraction that's barely an attraction. Yeah, it adds vibes to our park, but we don't care about vibes because we're a corporation. And it's low capacity and people are on their phones. And because we don't have anything else going down the street, we don't also have horses, multiple vehicles. We have 2 trains tops if they're both running that are going up and down the street. It's not enough movement to make people aware. It's just enough movement where somebody's going to get injured real quick because Buena Vista Street is 2 blocks too short to be impactful like Main Street USA. So it kind of creeps up on you a little bit. And let's be honest, like, dude, I love the vibes more than anyone at the park, or just as much as anyone. I shouldn't say more, but just as much as anyone. Let's be honest. It had become a really bad ride because you spent more time getting yelled at by cast members than you did actually riding the rails. Let's go back to it real quick, okay? Yeah. First off, because of Avengers Campus, it now starts or stops at the Hyperion Theater, okay? So we get on. What do we hear? Make sure your kids are seated. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do this. You take off. Guess what happens? Mom has to get a photo of her kids. So she's still, ma'am, you got to be seated. Kid gets up, like they're just barking orders at everybody the whole time. You turn that little turn, and then what do? You get a half a building and you stop in front of the animation building. Okay. Now I'm sitting there. You got to stay seated. Kids can't do this. You got to hear the rules all over again. What happens? We go a little bit further to Carthay Circle. What happens? Kids got to be seated. You can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And I know I'm being annoying right now. He's like, he's not going to go through the whole thing. Yeah, I'm going to go through the whole thing to prove my point. Then we go around, we go around the hub, and now we go down Buena Vista block, Buena block. Now we're there. And now we're going to go back and do it again. Like, it wasn't the Disneyland Railroad. It wasn't the Mark Twain. Like the experience had been so diminished. And it's sad because that was the one and only vibe ride that park had. And I define a vibe ride as a ride that you can ride, but you're not actively like thrill seeking. You're on an adventure. You're basically on a bench where you have a window into the magic. And the window into the magic is you get to watch other people live their lives. So Mark Twain, vibe ride. Disneyland Railroad, vibe ride. You're doing that and you're like looking at Walt's creation. This hadn't become that. And don't get me wrong, I loved it. I think it's beautiful. When I worked for Disney, that was one of the subject matters that I illustrated for the Wonderground Gallery. Like, I absolutely adored the way that it looks. And I kind of think that it's rude that there's one sitting there right when you walk in the front gate. Yeah. But I mean, I don't see them bringing it back, like I just kind of think that they're like, that time has passed for this park,
Yeah, and also to your point about the parades, even if you want to kind of circle back to parades, it is connected to the red car trolley as well, because I remember back when they brought Paint the Night back to DCA in 2018, and they added that Incredibles float. One of the big issues entertainment had with this park was that the red car trolley wires were limiting the floats. They couldn't do what was it, the mermaid float or something?
There's also Mac from the Cars Land installment. Like, he's so tall that's the reason why this Christmas we won't have the Mickey garland going across the street, because of the height clearance to get the semi through. So it creates obstacles that way. And then also too, like, for anybody who's hoping like, well, maybe they'll just put the barn, on the outside of the doors that are just like to the outside of Avengers or Mission Breakout. Well, now it's in the way of the parade. You know what I mean? So it's like it just, I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong, I really love it, but if you really think about the ride quality, it had diminished severely due to the extra stops added, and also just due to public behavior. Like, at some point, you're a corporation. Like, what's the liability of this? Like, we're telling everybody to look in their phones more now than ever. You have a really short street that people are walking down and they're trying to make the biggest decision of what they're going to do on a very expensive day. And we're just going to ram a train right down the middle of the road. Like, it just became miserable for everybody.
Yeah. George knows all about that, right, George?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's the whole reason why the trolley's gone away, because of me. Because it's
Mr. Lawsuit.
Yes. No, literally, I ended up mentioning it on a show that we were doing, like I was like, it's such an inconvenience for me because I'm like walking down the street, I'm constantly being told to, you know, move to the sidewalk and everything. It's like every single time. And literally I throw my frustration out on the trolley, and a day after, that's when they make the announcement the trolley's gone for good.
The Italiano has spoken.
You know what I'm saying? And when you said move to the sidewalk, it reminds me of that. I don't know if you guys have seen the Justin Bieber meme where he's in the blue hoodie and he's saying, "It's not clocking to you. I don't care if you're on the sidewalk." It's not clocking. I don't know. It's immediately what I thought about.
But, Bricky, what say you about the trolley tracks? Like, are they just gonna leave them there, like just to not spend the money, or would you say they would fill it in depending on what is to become of like what is going to be Pandora and the transition of it from Buena Vista Street?
That's a great question. And it gets into like, all right, let's study Disneyland's past to better predict its future. So what did they do with the Jolly Trolley in Toontown? They left the tracks until it could be combined with the larger project. Right. So the tracks are going to stay there. They're not going to just rip up all the road and reset brick and spend all of that money and all that inconvenience during the 70s because, well, we took the train out. We don't need the tracks anymore. But anytime anything on that path has a maintenance thing, they got to get those out. I mean, just the liability, you know, of somebody getting their foot stuck in there, somebody getting their wheelchair stuck in there and it flinging them out. Like, it's a huge, huge liability. And, you know, when there's not a train going, it's an even easier thing to trip on because you're even less aware of the uneven surface. Like when you see a train, you go, oh man, there's probably tracks. So yeah, I would think that those will probably are on an add-on for when any of those locations have something that happens, because when they redid Toontown, they absolutely took out those tracks. I mean, the old train barn is still there on the outskirts of Roger Rabbit, which, by the way, let's talk about real quick. Roger Rabbit is a trap. You know, it's a hot summer's day. Oh, look, there's a ride. There's not a single person standing out front of it. I bet nobody ever looks all the way over to the right, and we could just mosey on in. And then you go in there and you're stuck in hell for 45 minutes because even though it's amazing facades and it's like world-class queue, it's like the type of queue you expect at Walt Disney World, not at Disneyland. But bro, those kids are restless. Mom is yelling at them, and the walls are getting closer, and you're getting in deeper, and you haven't seen daylight or a window in 25 minutes, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm good, right? I'm not getting ready to pass out. I feel fine in here. It's okay that Joseph keeps hitting his sister, and his sister's crying, and his mom is on her phone and yells at him. It's like, Joseph's got this handled. I don't have to think about this. I've pulled out my whole life. I'm not responsible for this, right? It's just like it gets wild in there, dude. Wild. It is the biggest trap at Disneyland. Like, there's nobody in there. Let's do it. 20 minutes later, you're like, help. It's the only queue I've ever been on. Multiple times I have to go, please do not go out the emergency exits, because people just go, fuck it. And they just dart out in the middle of that thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're absolutely right, though. You're absolutely right. It's a total trap. You get in there, oh yeah, this will be easy, dude. I'll get in there real quick, and then you get in there, and you're trapped in those little toon alleyways. You know, just going through.
It's very narrow, literally. It's more narrow than my urethra right now. Like that's right.
Very much so.
I actually feel like the stone when I'm walking through there. I'm just banging all on everything.
Now, Ricky, I want to ask you, because Mice Chat, you mentioned them earlier, and they did a fantastic job with this, with the aerial shot.
Shout out to Dusty.
Absolutely, really great guy. They do great work over there. But like, this is a big space. I mean, I think it pretty much took up the entire expansion area. I mean, they're not leaving any room. No. It's wild, right?
Yeah, I mean, when Mice Chat put up that photo, and by the way, you should be, if you're watching this and you've made it to past the first 30 minutes, then you're hardcore and you should be reading Mice Chat's Disneyland update that they put out every Monday.
Absolutely.
Dusty is a super, super sweet dude. So when they put up that aerial photograph, you really got the idea of how big that space was. Now, you know, nerds like us, we've been looking at Google Earth for a long time, but once it's just down to dirt and it's like tonally one thing, you're like, holy shit, it's way big. And so a couple of thoughts came across my mind. One, would we be more excited if we knew that all of that space, I mean, every inch of that space was going to a world-class e-ticket attraction, not kind of getting broken up into 2 attractions, right? Like if you could fit 2 there, could there be any way that they were good as the first one? And then some people might push back on me, but I would argue this. So yeah, it's a tall building, but you can always put facades around things and you can go down a little bit in the ground. But I really feel like that they should have put a cosmic rewind in that space. And if you just change the way that the reverse launch is angled, like you can't like just take that blueprint and drop it there, but the show building fits and the reverse launch fits. So just with a little, sort of revision on the track layout, they could have put a cosmic rewind there. Now, I'm not saying Guardian ride next to Guardian ride. That'd be completely dumb. Right. But that ride is the best thing they've created in a really long time. It's sturdy. It's always running. It has a customer satisfaction that's through the roof. And what does it do? It jumps. It jumps from locations. So if you took the basis of that ride and you use your video boards to basically be jumping through a multiverse where when they want to promote a new movie, Screen C gets switched over to Fantastic Four. Then when that promotion cycle's over with, it goes back to its standard like Spider-Man scene or whatever. Like that would have really made DCA feel finished to have a second like intense roller coaster that tells stories. It would have made Avengers Campus feel like it actually had an identity, and it really would have made that park feel like, okay, now it's got 2 roller coasters. It's really good to go. But instead, like, I don't know, man. If it's really similar with some modifications to that Peter Pan attraction that just opened up in Fantasy Springs, that just doesn't look very Avengers to me. And then the other ride, I guess what people refer to as a Kuka arm. Yeah. I don't know how everybody in the world is like, oh, that's a Kuka arm. Well, you didn't go to high school? A Kuka arm. That's like we took a class on Kuka arms. Like everybody just knows it's a Kuka arm. I know what a Ferris wheel is. I know what a roller coaster is. I know what a merry-go-round is. But Kuka arm, how did we all get on the same page with Kuka arm? But I mean, I think one of you, I think maybe it was George or you that basically said that it's all training with no story.
Yep, that was me.
Because think about the plot to most Disney rides are like, hey, you're here, we're going to train you. Something went wrong, and you already need to use that training to help out Tony Stark because all the other Avengers are busy and he needs you to help. It's just literally like, hey, what's up? Welcome to training.
That's it.
And literally, Demaro even said that was the full concept art at the D23 fan event for the parks presentation. We're sitting there, and I'm like, okay, in my mind, I'm thinking because they were going to use the Kuka arm technology originally for the first Avengers e-ticket that was announced in 2019. And I thought to myself, okay, they just had a whole batch of these just laying around that because they didn't get, it moving forward to what the first concept was. So it's like, okay, well, we already spent money on this. So what could we do with it? Oh, yeah, let's not even skin them to anything. Let's just give them the robotic arm of what they are and put them in like a flat warehouse kind of show thing.
Well, and they even said
it's almost like, you know what if the theme for Paradise Pier is an amusement park in an amusement park?
Right, exactly.
Well, hear me out. What if the theme for Dino Land is a parking lot with a carnival in it? Huh? You like that, guys? Like, it's that same, like, hey, here's what we're going to do. It's like the Cleveland Browns. So you're telling me I own a football team named the Browns, and you're pitching to me a solid orange helmet with no marks on it. You're right. Genius. I'll buy it. It cost me nothing other than orange. Like,
you're
it's
right.
One of those moments, right?
Oh, totally. That was one of the things when they announced that thing. I was like, it's all training, number one. But like you said, it's there's no theming either. They're like, we're just gonna have the Kuka arms, and and that's why it's the whole Stark thing, right? Because then you can just say, oh, it's Stark, so it's technology. Yeah. I would have rather them take the Kuka arm technology and that would have been dope for a Spider-Man ride. And you're going through you're going from building to building, or you can see the cars below you, and it'd be kind of dope like that. This is it's just a bare bones Kuka arm thing, and there's no real effort to kind of like make it more than that. And you're right, Bricky. I would have rather than put maybe Ixnay on the Kuka arm thing and just give us a better e-ticket.
I mean, it's kind of the theme park equivalent to a sex party, right? Because like everybody's just in this big room, like getting wild together. Like everybody's just like in the same space, right? Like in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, the height of that ride is when you go underwater, right?
Yeah.
So what happens? Your little cart goes into its own little IMAX room, like its own, like, 360 or sphere type screen. Your cart goes forward, a little thing in the back lifts you up, and you feel like you're going into it. Why the Kuka arms, when they get put onto the track, 'cause let's not totally downplay it. Like I'm sitting on one vehicle, I get snapped and get picked up and put on something else. That's pretty damn cool. But that thing that I get put on should push me into a sphere where I'm on an adventure and I'm training for that mission. And then it brings me back and then it puts me on another cart. And then I come over to my next mission. The fact that it's just like, hey, we're all doing this and it's wild. It's like,
it's lame.
Weird.
The tech is cool. The execution is diluted.
Well, there's no surprise, right? Like the reason why hardcore people, like I will not watch a POV of Test Track, because when I ride it, I want to see what it looks like. I want to make my own opinions. And there's something about experiencing it for the first time. It's literally, it breaks the rules of storytelling that when you walk in there, you go, cool, I see everything I'm doing. Like, you know why people don't care about merry-go-rounds? Because when you walk up, you go, cool, I'm going in a circle, right? Like
exactly.
The first time you got on Rise of the Resistance, if you weren't spoiled, you're like, so is this the fucking ride? Right?
Yeah.
Like, is this is it? Like Star Tours, but a bus with no seat?
Star bus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's the reveal. That's the Disney magic. Like,
yeah.
I cheated because I'm like, okay, when Shanghai Disney came out, I'm like, I'll watch the POV of one ride, because maybe that'll inspire me to go all the way over to China. I mean, when that park opened up, I didn't have a YouTube channel. Like I was just like, I don't know, like on a fan's budget, would I ever spend that money? I don't know. But like now that I do this as a part of my living, like I can justify it. And I do want to go there. But I remember laying in bed on an iPhone, and iPhones were even smaller then. We didn't even have Maxes then. And I remember seeing one scene where the skeleton becomes a man. And I like sat up in bed. It's like, how the hell did they do that? Yeah. And then I watched the whole rest of it. It's the only time I've ever watched a POV the whole way through. And there's still one scene I don't understand what they did, and I don't want to know until I go to Shanghai and I ride it. But when I was done watching that video, I had the like adrenaline flow. It was late on a Sunday night. Beth's already asleep in bed, and I'm laying in bed with like the adrenaline flow. Like, oh, I just crushed that ride, and it was so sick. I was a vibe. I wasn't a vibe chaser. I was a ride crusher for that moment.
Yeah.
And that's what a Disney ride should do. You shouldn't be able to walk up in a line and go, oh, we're going to go from here to there. I'm done. You know what I mean? Like that's what separates.
Yes.
Because like do this next time you take somebody to the park that's never been. Walk them up to an attraction where they can't see anything and go, hey man, what do you think we're getting ready to do right now?
Right.
And have them explain, like, I don't know, like I had somebody one time tell me that they thought Storm's like, well, it's going to be like Cars, but like planes that are going to be talking, and we're going to get like a little plane and like fly around and like see like little show scenes. I go, that's exactly it. Like whatever they guess, I always tell them that they guess right. And then they're in store like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm like, yeah, I know, it's awesome, right? So like anything that's that naked and bare bones, it's just like, where's the adventure?
Well, yeah, exactly, Brig. And this is the other thing too. I made a suggestion, and it's too late. I mean, they're not going to do this, but I think it actually would improve both attractions. What they could do is they can have like interconnectivity with the Kuka arm and the e-ticket. So for the e-ticket, I'm assuming the finale scene will be this big King Thanos battle, right? So you pull up, and there's this big battle with King Thanos. Now, it would have been cool if the Kuka arm, you do all this training, okay, recruits, yada, 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 and you actually enter the finale scene to the other ride, and you all fight King Thanos together. So you have the e-ticket people sitting in there in the e-ticket vehicle, and then you have the Kuka arm people. They came through like a portal, like a Doctor Strange portal or something, right? And then now they're next to you, and we're all fighting Thanos together. But that makes the Kuka arm ride cooler. But it even makes the e-ticket ride even cooler, because it's like, oh, dang, this is dope, dude. It's like two rides in one, you know? just something like that would make all the difference.
Infinity Defense, I'm already like, I'm kind of like halfway checked in, halfway checked out with it for how long that we've been waiting for this. And I mean, I get it. You know, you don't have to have a current villain, but Thanos just feels like so 2019. You know, it's like, I don't know.
It's not
like,
Darth Vader.
Kind of over him, you know, like
Yeah.
I would like to see something fresh, new of what we're anticipating on the future of Marvel, not necessarily what we already got.
Well, a couple of thoughts. One, Tomorrowland is a really good reason why OG's idea isn't going to happen. Because if you look at everything Disney has built, we'll say since, you know, year 2000 moving forward, fans all love kinetic energy, but Disney hates it. Because when things are woven together, it makes it harder to edit it. So two attractions sharing the same space now means they're forever tethered together. And everything now is individual. Red Car Trolley is a kinetic energy attraction, and it went away. They do not like to have things that overlap with other things, which is the main reason why I think they got the cold feet on doing the animal walk around attraction at Galaxy's Edge, because the tracks as I see it would have at least interfered with one or two different zones inside of that land, which then means that whenever you decide to get rid of one thing, you have the people mover problem of like, what do we do with these animal tracks? Because this ride doesn't work, or it's, you know, it's too popular, or it's not popular enough. So you get to all that. But I want to tell you guys a rumor that I heard on good authority from different people that I don't know that they know each other. So it wasn't like three of the same friends in the same crowd told me this. Right. I was told by a couple different people that when Iger stepped in, because like it was the first version of the Avengers e-ticket, right? And then Chapek announced something else. And then when Iger showed up, it looked like the plan had changed again. What I have been told from different people is that when Iger saw, because Iger knew what had been greenlit when he was here, and then he stepped away. And then when he stepped back in and he saw what Bobby C had planned, he's like, oh, no. We're going to have to give them more time, more budget, because that is not an Avengers level attraction. Like that's not going to fly at all. So the reason why it has been stretched out is maybe not to make it as good as what the original idea was that they had to back down from, but it was stretched out to make it better than what it almost was. And having heard that rumor, it kind of makes me feel like Iger looked at it and goes, okay, this is good, but if you got more space, we're going to need something else, because we really need to razzle dazzle people with this land. And I mean, it's so unheard of for modern Disney to be like, check it out, 2 rides. You know what I mean? Like, expansions normally only come singular. It's the most odd news, other than like, we're redoing, you know, the Dino Land area of Animal Kingdom, and there's going to be Encanto over here. And we're going to reskin Indiana Jones. Like, that's kind of like redeveloping an entire land. So that makes sense. But like 2 attractions at once, the Obogo, that's pretty unheard of. So I'm curious to see how much infrastructure they share. Like, is it sort of are the buildings tied together? Like, we'll know soon if it was also like they're being built as one thing, which will be an interesting indication of what's to come next. Yeah, absolutely. I want to dive into a little bit about Sightlines, because I think this particular show building might be a Sightline issue. I don't know here's the thing. There's a lot of variables, but I really want to dive into it with you, Bricky, because you do have the architecture background. Do you feel it's not like they're building back there like a big Thunder Mountain where it's like natural rock work and you can see it from anywhere and it would look great anywhere. This is going to be a big boxy building. Is this going to be a problem with Sightlines, number one? And number two, is it going to interfere with Mission Breakout in terms of it's like that forced perspective of it looking so big? When you put another big building next to Breakout, does that take away from the looming kind of factor of Breakout?
And before you answer that, Bricky, to add on to that, does that also affect walking into Cars Land from the San Francisco side?
Okay. Great questions. I worry nothing about any of this because this is very easy stuff to fix. So first off, on the side of the building that faces Radiator Springs, if they do a little bit of like rock facade work, like, you know how we see like the floating popsicle rocks at the back end of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
You just put a little bit of like texture over there, like some sort of rock texture over there. Anything that you would be able to see from like the San Francisco, like that beautiful entrance. Like, I guarantee you one thing, they are not going to disrupt that beautiful view. It's one of the most beautiful views ever built in a Disney park.
Right.
We're lucky that it's in one of our parks. So that is just like a little extra rock work. And now there's like, you know, something that happens beyond that ridge. Like, so it makes Radiator Racers like that epic look from when you come through the keyhole there at the edge of San Francisco. It makes it even more real because it goes on forever. So they'll put rock work back there. They'll paint it a very, very light tannish color that'll have lots of blue and gray hues, because the way that the world works, because of our blue sky and atmosphere, the further something is away from you, the more blue it is. So when you study the rocks at Radiator Springs, the rocks that are closest to you are bright orange, and then they get lighter as they go up to the top, with also like a little bit of like a grayish like hue to them. When you look at the spires inside of Galaxy's Edge, the ones that are closest to you are super dark and vibrant. The ones that are the popsicles are almost gray. What that does is it makes them feel further away. So on that side, we have no problem. Now, put in a big building next to Mission Breakout, you have a decision to make. You want to be cheap? Okay, ruin 2 attractions. Look at Madame Leota's Bed Bath & Beyond. But I almost got a spit take there. I almost got a spit take.
You did.
But if you want to make your main building look big and your new building look big, work on your force perspective. Like, if that warehouse type building that's behind the front facade, like if it scales properly and it stair steps back and they put like smaller windows and stuff at the top of it, it can 100% have the power to make the Guardians of the Galaxy Tower look even bigger. And in a way, it will anchor it down, because like right now it kind of looks like it fell from the sky. It'll be interesting to see, do they keep everything smooth around it? Or if they really want to go the extra mile, do they do any airbrushing and make that side of the building look burnt?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
interesting.
because here's the thing that most fans haven't picked up on, and I've done videos about it. I probably should do a video again. But if you notice something with an eagle eye, when you go into Avengers Campus and you go over to Doctor Strange's abandoned, magician shop, right? There's all that beautiful rock work everywhere. Well, if you look at the edge of the rock work and the textures are there and how it's burnt and the colors, and then you look up at the edge, the lower rung edge of Mission Breakout, it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same burn marks. It's the exact same patterns. It matches. So the story is that when all of that got burnt in that battle, whatever did that burnt that space and that building at the same time. And if you also look, there's a lot of matching like motifs and decoration components in the Captain or Doctor Strange area. So those two buildings were like, the story is, from the way that I see it, whatever battle happened, it happened at the same time and affected both of them. And those buildings are from a similar time period and era, and they're kind of like joined together on a similar timeline. So if the edge of the new building has like a burnt edge to it and it looks dark and dull on that side, it will even sell even more that the building got plopped down, and that there have been battles that have happened on the campus, which obviously they would have some.
Yeah, no, that's a great observation. And I remember Joe Rohde talking about that back in the day when Mission Breakout first opened. He talked about the burn marks and what have you. Yeah. So that is part of that story. I love that. Yeah, add that in. There's a lot of creative ways you can kind of incorporate this and make it look really cool and fit in. And I hope they go all out with it. Yeah,
I mean, there's tons of opportunities there. And it's like, if you're excited about this, it's all going to make you more excited. If your arms are crossed and you're already poo-pooing it, then that's going to be your mindset. Like, right. Avengers Campus didn't live up to my anticipation and expectations in phase 1. But as a creative, you always have more opportunities to improve things. And I'll be honest with you, when I saw that first aerial photograph, I'm like, oh, here we go. You know what I mean? Like, yes. We're back in business. There's dirt at the park. We're making stuff again. And COVID definitely pushed things back. And I did a video in 2020 that predicted that 2025 would be the first normal year at the parks. We're halfway through 2025, and it feels like it's the first normal year. We're seeing expansions, we're seeing events, like kind of like the social distancing and sort of the being afraid to be around other people that's dissipated. Like, it does feel a lot like 2019 in the parks right now, just with, some bad souvenirs, Lightning Lane reservations, Magic Keys versus annual passes. Like, they used all that as a hard reboot to be like, okay, we want to right our wrongs of the past. We're going to use, because we're a storytelling company, we're going to use the storytelling of a global pandemic to reset some of the things that we made a mistake on.
Yeah.
And, they took advantage of the moment. I guess I would do the same if I was a billion-dollar industry.
Yeah, because I think a lot of that stuff, you're right. A lot of that stuff they've wanted to do for a long time. And they didn't know how to incorporate it, because especially the annual pass key holder thing. I mean, that's a real hard thing to get in there and alter like midstream. But when you have a pandy and you have 400 and some odd days where your park is closed, it's a perfect opportunity to reboot that thing,
Yeah, they use the Thanos snap as a really great way to reset everything.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, but yeah, I'm excited too, man. This is, like you said, Bricky, it's sports to us, the dirt, all that. It's exciting to follow these projects, And another thing too is that Disneyland Forward stuff. I mean, over there with the Eastern Gateway. I mean, that's going to be crazy fun to watch.
Yeah,
like, go ahead.
The thing that I was that was interesting about that is that they did scale it back a little bit already. Because like, they're essentially building the Pixar Pals part of that garage and waiting later to build the Mickey and Friends part of that garage. Because like, that whole area over there is earmarked to be a parking garage. And so that was the interesting part. I'm like, oh, they're just going with the smaller part first. Because I mean, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there were articles, Blog Mickey jumped on them. OC Register jumped on them. There was even concept art put out that they were going to build I think the third biggest parking garage in the world, and that it would have more spaces than Pixar Pals and Mickey and Friends combined. Yep. And now it's kind of only the smaller part of that. The thing that fascinates me about that project, though, is fans going, well, where's the tram?
Oh,
it's not that far of a walk.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's literally from, if you already park at the Toy Story parking lot, that thing's so spread out. So you got to walk over to your bus, and then depending on where your bus drops you off, you got to walk that length anyways. Like, it's the other two footprints kind of combined, and depending on like, if you get closer to harbor on your parking space that day, the walk could theoretically even be shorter if you're close to where the bridge starts. So like, people just look at that, and I think people have a hard reference because they see the monorail going through and like, oh, it must be so far. And it's like, no, it's the size that it is now. It's like walking from Space Mountain to Main Street, USA. Right,
exactly. And it's like, it's funny to me. I agree. When fans complain about the walking, I'm like, well, what do you think you're going to do when you get in the park?
Yeah,
it's 12 hours of walking.
Yeah, so, for most of us, yeah,
for most of us, yeah. I mean, but like, and if you're disabled and you're using wheelchairs and what have you, that's a different story. But like, I don't understand this idea that like the from the structure to the Esplanade is too long of a walk. But like, I mean, you're going to be walking the whole day, so I don't know what that really matters, And
it's also interesting too. Like, when I was in it's so, I'm going to complain a little bit, creator to creator. People have a very short attention span. So when I make my Disneyland Forward videos, I try to tell one part of the story at the time. And then people are like, but if they're going to, but if they build DCA over in the Simba parking lot, where are all those cars going to go? Do I have to also in every video tell you about the parking garage that they're building over on the east side? You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
People kind of like, so I kind of end up sometimes in the Disneyland Forward series remaking videos again, just knowing that not everybody watches every video and that this topic is something that's feeling more real to people. But it's fascinating to me that it's like Disneyland Forward's complicated. It's all stitched together. And when you only talk about one part of it in isolation, like there was a person who's like, excuse me, I'm an architect. And you're going to need to make that backstage area multiple levels. And I had to politely write back and be like, yeah, you're absolutely right. That was talked about in the last video. I just try to keep it down to like one topic per video so I don't lose the audience and get too tech. So this video is more about like, hey, there's extra room here. If you watched last week's video where I talk about the two different layouts for Coco, now your mind's like, oh man, multi-level, starting over at Paradise. Like this all just got bigger. But it's such a difficult thing to talk about when you just focus in on the nuance of one parking garage, because people go, but what? When they build the new park, what happens to how you park at Toy Story if it's a theme park? Because that new parking garage will be like Toy Story parking lot. But get this, multiple Toy Story parking lots stacked on top of each other. So it's way more parking.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing too. I've gotten a lot of pushback over the years that people will tell me, no, OG, that Toy Story lot's not going to be a third park. It's going to be another Disney Springs or something. And look, maybe Disney will completely fumble and they'll make it another shopping area. I just think that would be incredibly stupid to waste 75 acres on more shopping. You could find 10, 15 acres somewhere else on Harbor or wherever to do that Disney shopping thing again. You're not going to find 75 acres in the middle of Anaheim ever again. You have to make it a third park.
No, and especially when there's already now today in 2025, we're on a 10-year decline, 15-year decline of brick and mortar retail.
Oh yeah.
Think about what that decline will look like in 2030, 35, 40, 45. If they open it up for the 100-year anniversary, 55. Like all of a sudden retail's not gonna be like, guess what? We're back in business, baby. People like shopping in the real world. Like that's just not gonna happen. That's a fool's dream. Like things only move forward, they don't go backwards. That's why it's Disneyland forward, not Disneyland backward. So let's just pretend for a minute that they do build the mall, right? So they end up building shopping. But like think about it this way. Hold on here. Let me unplug my iPad. I'm tangled. So if this right here is Toy Story, right? You have the Toy Story parking lot. What do you have next to it right here? Garden Walk. Somebody else's mall is right next to their mall. Oh, we cannot wait to build a mall next to your mall. And then what do you have over here? And like across the highway, right? Like over here, you have OC5.
Yep.
And then across the street here, you have hotels and shopping in this direction. So they just cannot wait to hook everybody up with more shopping. But if you look at it this way, right? If you think about it all being connected, it totally makes sense. Because here's the new parking garage. Okay? Your parking garage takes you here to Disneyland and DCA. And then the new parking garage takes you to Garden Walk, which they will buy, which becomes part of the third park.
Bingo.
And then over here, you have Downtown Disney and your hotel zone.
There you go.
Everything is completely connected. So people are like, well, how are you going to get there? Well, if you want to go to these parks, easy. You just get off the highway and you park over here. But if you want to go here or here, you just get off the highway, park in this park. And so you can literally just go between all three of them. And they're all connected. Like,
yes.
With that Skyway, and with probably the entrance being a Sky Park on the top level because you got to go over the top of the monorail, you could 100% go from the Esplanade, go over that, walk through like whatever Garden Walk becomes. I'm essentially thinking that it would become more theme park space. And then you go into that theme park. I mean, it's just like, and by the way, once you have this entryway, the garden walk to get in there. Then over here where you have residential people, that's now so far from the foreground that you can really eat this up with backstage space. You can eat that up with backstage space and facades, right? So that part of your park is pushed out so far that you are very distant from the people that live on that area. So that park could swing in that direction. So either choose your adventure. You want to park on the west or you want to park on the east. But think about this for a second. The space between Magic Kingdom and Epcot is greater than the space between Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm.
Wow.
And people go, well, I mean, if the Toy Story is a theme park, you can't get to it from the Esplanade. It's over. No, bro. The Esplanade just moves. It's all connected.
Exactly. No, perfect. Brilliantly said, Breggy. Brilliantly said. I want to ask you, too. You mentioned OC Vibe, and I think that's currently still under construction. It's over there by the Honda Center, right?
What did they do first? They built the parking garage. It always starts with parking. They're wrapping up the parking garage right now.
Yep. I want to ask you, what do you think that means in terms of the whole Disney element? Like, do you feel the OC Vibe exists because whoever is building that project kind of feels like, okay, you know what? Eventually, we're going to have a third park over in this area, and this is going to be a gold mine for us when that thing opens. You feel like that they were kind of reading the tea leaves a little bit there?
I mean, let's look at a couple of little indications that this is going to happen. First off, there's the JW Marriott that sits right outside of the Toy Story parking lot. The most premier rooms just happen to be angled at a Disney parking lot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, it costs extra to see those buses come in and out. I got to see that. That's great. We don't have buses.
And they're Toy Story themed.
We don't have buses where we live. So I think that this is the case.
Yeah.
I think that people are on the inside know Disney's long-term strategy. And people are like, well, what's the IP going to be in the third park? They don't know. They don't care because it's like 40 years away, 30 years away. Right. Why would you close that door now? But think about this. If somebody looked at it and goes, okay, Disney has 3 hotels. They'll probably build 2 more hotels to make all of this work. They're going to own 5 hotels. Anaheim already has like a ton of hotels. But if we look at how much money Disney Springs makes out on the East Coast, if the city of Anaheim does that, then we'll make back some of the money that we make because we have a deal with Disneyland that if they keep investing money in the parks, that we don't do sales tax on tickets. So Disney gets all kinds of sweetheart deals. You know, the city of Anaheim helped them build Mickey and Friends. I think that thing actually just gets paid off this year, which will put a ton of revenue. I think they literally just paid off Mickey and Friends, and then the city of Anaheim's like, this is what we're doing with the money we're getting from Disneyland Forward. And as soon as they announced this is money we're getting from Disneyland Forward, Disneyland was like, we're building a bridge. So it's all very tied together. So yeah, I absolutely think OC Vibe becomes the West Coast version of, Disney Springs, and they're going to go full entertainment. They're going to go, entertainment, shopping, and all that stuff. It's remarkably close. There's probably going to be some sort of a sweetheart deal to get from one or the other. But this is the thing that irritates me. Like, wow, they should have bought Garden Walk when they had a chance. Let me ask you something. If something's a deal in like the early 2000s and you buy it, and then you have to do the maintenance on it, and you have to manage it, and you're Disney and you have a world-class reputation, so you got to keep it at a certain level of status.
Sure. If
you do that for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, was it really a deal? Did you really get a deal? I mean, it was cheap. Like, yeah, babysitting it for the last decade was not going to be cheap.
Exactly.
People be like, the hell with Disney, man. They bought the Garden Walk. You see what they did to it? But because like Steve and Eric own it, everyone's like, these guys are ruining the Garden Walk. Who are these guys? Nobody knows. You know what I mean? They're sitting around being like, come on, Disney. We got enough money to pay like 6 months more rent. Please buy us out. Like, there's no way that those guys are ready for that.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask, because you had mentioned that there was a possibility of them going from 3 hotels to 5. And then you mentioned Garden Walk that could be used for future theme park expansion. I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's still marked for partial of Garden Walk to add in a hotel. Could that possibly be a area where they could add one of the new hotels that could be adjacent to the third gate?
Oh, 100%. Like, there's no way they're not going to build this third gate and not put in at least a fourth or fifth hotel. I would predict that they'll probably do a very high-end hotel that'll be very like it'll be fundamentally a part of. I mean, because let's even think about it. This back trouble corner. What if this back trouble corner is a hotel? Think about the space between the Disneyland Hotel and Downtown Disney, and how Disneyland Hotel is relatively quiet next to all the citizens that live over on Walnut Street. So this back area could literally be a hotel just to create that noise buffer zone. There's also an area of Garden Walk right next to the world's most expensive Starbucks. It never has a line. That is zoned for timeshares. So literally they could swoop right in and be like, not only are we putting a hotel in here, but we're going to go vertical and build another 150 DVC suites. And if you think about it, like, Garden Walk is a lot of space. And at the grand entryway of Garden Walk, that would be the north edge of it. Over on the eastern side, there's a UFC gym, but behind the UFC gym, there is a massive empty lot that goes right up to the fire station there. What they could do with Garden Walk, once combined with Toy Story, I mean, I'm not going to say Westcott, but I'm saying they could do something very ambitious.
I love that. And even
sitting there, he's like, dare. And like wanting Westcott, like from.
Oh, well, I think Westcott would be a moneymaker out here in California, just because you have that drink around the world thing. I think the key holders would eat that up. Like, literally, they would love that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
But I think about it. If this front extension here, which is very big, if this front extension happened to be all, attractions and, sort of a future world type place, and then we have a body of water. What does water do to absorb sound? We put hotels above the pavilions. Now you're creating height and space. Like, a Westcott type design would absolutely work, and it would work really well with like the sound restrictions, also the height restrictions. Like, if they put shopping in there, they don't deserve any of their success. Like, it would just be the dumbest thing ever. And it's zoned in Disneyland Forward as entertainment space, theme park space. Now, here's the thing. Why haven't they announced it? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's long, long into the future. Yeah. Like, I don't even think the movies have been made for the IP that will go in that park. So you got to manage people's expectations. You also don't want the Garden Walk brothers to be like, you smell money? They want Garden Walk to fall on its ass and collapse and be like, we'll bail you out. We'll go ahead. We'll give you 50 cents on the dollar. We'll bail you out. And then be like, boom, third game, bitches.
Well, that's essentially what happened even with Walt Disney himself when purchasing the land for Walt 100%. Disney World, using different falsified, company names, because knowing that it was going to be the Disney name, because I think it was like $100 an acre, and then when it leaked out that it was Disney, it shot up to $1,000 per acre per night.
Yeah, I mean, even they almost left the site that they have in Anaheim, and they had they did like a walk away moment, and then the city of Anaheim's like, no, we'll cap Cerritos right off, baby. We don't give a shit about that. Like, Cerritos, what? And that's why that road ends into Disneyland Hotel. That basically, if you were to stay on old school Cerritos, it basically lines right up with the edge of the fire department, where ironically there is a road, and the horses come in from backstage, and the omnibus comes in from backstage, and they're like, oh, no, we will get rid of that to make you come. Like, where I'm at right now in the Disneyland story, right now, this exact week, 70 years ago, people that live on Harbor are pissed off because Anaheim is taking 40 feet from their front yards to make Harbor wider. So people live on Harbor. it's a very narrow, like country road. And like, we need way more lanes. So it's that moment when the city's like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and buy off the front of your front yard. So people are losing 40 feet off their property to make the road wider. And that argument is happening right now while union workers are getting ready to go on strike, being like, yeah, well, you can get the land, but we're not building the road. It's like, people are like, man, things are really bad right now. Things have always been bad because people suck. That's why we need Disneyland to get away from people.
100%. Perfectly said, Bricky. That's exactly it.
And that's why I say for all like the locals surrounding Disneyland, just give them all eviction notices, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I know you're joking, but here's the thing. And this has been very evident to me in my self-proclaimed like becoming a Disneyland historian and like starting at the beginning of the story and reading the minutia, not just the books that were written about Disneyland, not just what Disney's written about themselves, but like really reading all these independent newspapers and stuff from all over California. People are always like, Bricky, they're just Toy Story. It can't be a theme park because there's babies and children and families that live right outside of the gate. They can't do that. And I just go, you're right. It does suck for that family. I too was born into this world broke, and I know what it's like to be a product of bad geography. However, the scumbag who built that apartment complex and built those townhomes, they all knew exactly what they were doing. They were trying to buy a house as close to the mouse as possible. And when you look at all of the real estate land grabs in 1955, people are aggressively trying to build as close to Walt's Park as possible. And there's all kinds of ads for, like, dude, check this out. OG, I know you live more north than I do out here. I don't know where George is at. Like, he lives in an emergency room or a YMCA or something. But I was reading an article the other night where they were building 150 homes, a new neighborhood that's going to be built just, 2 miles from Disneyland. They're advertising Disneyland. They're like selling on like, if you move here, you'll be 2 miles from Disneyland. 150 homes in this track, $3.5 million. Wow. For 150 homes. OG, I don't know about you, but you can't even buy a home in my neighborhood for less than $3.5 million.
No, exactly. That's wild.
So people go like, but what about the people that live on the outside? And I do feel bad for those people because, like, yeah, it does suck to not to be able to buy your own home in California, and it does suck to have to pay rent. I totally get it. But those people are just casualties in a much larger war. The guy who built the apartment complex, the guy who's renting to them, bought that land, got that structure, or bought it from somebody else because it was 100% next to Disneyland. So this whole like, woe is me, I don't really feel as much like compassion as I used to for like the property owners, because everybody was basically playing Monopoly. And I do feel bad for the people that live in those structures, but a lot of those people, like, they're probably on a 12-month lease, 18-month lease or whatever. And yeah, I know when you move, it gets more expensive and I feel horrible for them. But also too, if you rent an apartment next to Disneyland, you have to think like, is this building going to be here for the next 10 years? Or is this going to get swept away with some other development? So when I look at it through a historical context, it just is like, no, man, nobody accidentally ended up next to the park. Everybody purposely tried to get there.
Yeah, no, well said. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, you're right with residents and everything. It does suck. But at the end of the day, pretty much everybody living in and around that area now, they came there after Disneyland. Yeah. Like at this point, I mean, you'd have to be 100 and something years old at this point to like, so it's like yes, it sucks to lose your home. But at the end of the day, like you said, Berkey, like you move next to Disney, you don't know,
Yeah, and the guy who sells your apartment complex, he finally got what he's been on the slow auction waiting for you're like, I'm going to buy 8 units next to Disneyland, and I'm just going to hope at some point it becomes Disneyland, and I get that payday, and it's a slow auction happening everywhere in Anaheim. And it started happening to Walt while he was in the middle of building the park. They had to just like frantically start buying stuff and had to get his bud to buy land for the Disneyland Hotel. And, they like had to negotiate out stuff to get like, cause there was one family that was holding out that was kind of going to be in the middle of their parking lot. So, you kind of got to buy out everybody to get the whole space, so, it's definitely interesting when you look at it through historical context. It looks a lot different than how people try to tell the story today.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing before we go, Harbor
Sure.
Boulevard, is now, it's an IHOP and a McDonald's and a, what is it, Mimi's Bakery and stuff like that.
It's two IHOPs actually. There's like two of them over there.
There's two. Yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think the future of Harbor looks like? Because now Disney's moving over there. They're putting that structure over there. We're getting the bridge. Now that Disney has sort of dipped its toe on that side of Harbor, I kind of feel like it's inevitable, as Thanos would say. Where I think that Disney's going to start taking more and more on that side. What are your thoughts on that? You think that's likely or no?
I think they kind of have what they need right now. I don't know that they'll take up more, but what I do look forward to is a couple of years ago, the city of Anaheim basically realized, okay, we're kind of maxed out on like what we have going on in the city. And we want to make more money because everybody's goal is always to make more. So they made a bid where if you did, like, it's weird in hotels, it's like 2 diamonds, I think is like the highest level hotel you can make. They did an offer where, like, if you do a 2 diamond hotel in Anaheim, we'll give you all these tax reductions, and we'll help you out as much as we can. Because their idea was like, okay, there's only so much space, so to make more money, you put in more expensive hotels, which brings in a more expensive clientele, which then makes us more money. Because everybody knows that, like, the markup on a hotel when you get into all the local taxes and stuff is absolutely insane. So studying the past like we do, I see the city of Anaheim trying to scoop in and be like, can we get rid of some of these lower level businesses and put more higher end businesses for higher clientele, higher tax revenue? But I don't think Disneyland will do it, because kind of the reason why all of this got pushed back, as I understand the story, is that when the city of Anaheim was like, we're looking for more high-end hotels. We want more people to come here and build high-end hotels to spend more money. Right at the 11th hour, Disney was like, here's the hotel we're going to build. And they're like, motherfuckers. Like, we already give you insane tax benefits. This is to bring new businesses to Anaheim, not to grow your empire.
Right.
And so they were beefing with the city of Anaheim. And the way that I know the story, it could be a little bit different, but the way that I know the story is they go, fine, anybody who builds one of these luxury resorts has to give all their employees a living wage.
Yeah.
And Disney goes, not it.
They canceled it so fast.
That's literally why the day that the bulldozers were coming to rip down ESPN, AMC, that hotel got stopped right then and there. So let's study the past and predict the future. City of Anaheim is going to look to put in like more luxury stuff to make more money. But Disneyland learned a lesson of like, we do better with the city when we go, hey, we're going to build all this shit and we're going to give you $15 million for affordable housing and to build new parks. Like they've just kind of figured out like, maybe we shouldn't try to put our hand in every cookie jar. And it seems like with the Thanos snap and with Anaheim being broke and seeing like how much Disney is actually worth, no longer speculating, but what does this place look like when Disneyland closes down for 440 days? That would be my anticipation, that private business will probably be on the incline around there. But I think Disney's going to stay true to their borders because they've got enough. And I don't think they want to get into like taking too much and then having elected officials be like, all right, well, no, fuck you. If you want to do that, we're going to do this to you. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of how they'll play it, But I mean, who knows? You could get new people at Disney, you could get new politicians, and they'll forget the lessons of the past, and you could get back into another bidding war and another big dick battle down the road. So that's only relevant if those characters are still on the board,
Yeah, well said. Yeah, no, that's a great point. Because right now, this is the first time in my lifetime, really, that Disney and Anaheim are really working together so well.
And what caused that?
It might have been those lockdowns, maybe, right?
The poof.
Yeah. Changed everything.
Yeah.
It changed everything,
It really did. It was just like, I think Anaheim's like, oh, we've been playing our hand too hard with these guys. Because, I mean, I think it kind of goes in ways where Disney gets too big for its britches and the city needs to clap back. And then the city gets too big for its britches and Anaheim has to clap back. It's kind of seems to be the human nature where people kind of forget what they have or what they don't have until they get ready to lose it, and then like, oh shit, gotta snap back. But yeah, I think that I think Disney's pretty set on their property, and if anything big were to happen in like 150 years, if Earth is still here, like the only big thing that would be far down the road, I'm talking big down the road, would be eventually that if the city of Anaheim gives up the convention center.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's sexy. I like that.
And I've always been told that there was the reason why the convention center went there is that the city of Anaheim was just like, hey man, everybody's buying up everything. We're going to go ahead and grab this on a gentleman's agreement. If you ever need it, it's there for you. And so I think that that's actually the hidden last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild. Yeah, because that's a perfect location for like another park.
But I mean, then that gets like, that's insane. You know what I mean? Because if they bought that, there's all those hotels around it. I mean, then it's almost like they slowly built Walt Disney World in expensive ass California in a crazy busy city. So that one right there, I mean, this is like the 20-year plan, 10-year plan, you know, give or take. Yeah. This is like the 50-year plan.
You know what that thing reminds me of? It reminds me of like that giant like hamster like walking thing, like where it goes up different levels.
Yeah, because you're looking at this vertically instead of like sky view that it should be.
Well, and another element to this whole equation with the convention center is Disney's got a good relationship with them right now with D23 and things like that. So I think they're pretty happy with that arrangement for the time being, at least. You know.
Do you think Disney would ever attempt to try to touch Angel Stadium?
I don't know. I mean, like, I think that then gets a little too convoluted and a little bit too far. Because then, I mean, it's one thing to let people take buses from the Toy Story parking lot, but if they were to buy Angel Stadium, like, is the Angel Stadium parking lot and arena big enough for parking and entertainment space? Because if you don't do that, then you got to shuttle people in. I think that it just, because it's like that far and it's that close to the highway, that would also be really hard to build a Disney park that's like right off the highway like that. And not only right off the highway, but think about this. Angel Stadium sits like, we're now looking vertically, George. Angel Stadium sits at this level right here. Like here's the stadium. And the highway is raised. Oh, sorry. Angel Stadium sits there and the highway is raised. So like that's a really big berm to make the highway disappear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually one of the things that, George, you went to Epic Universe not too long ago, and you were saying that the travel time from the main Universal Resort to Epic is a lot longer than you were expecting.
It felt like a lot longer than what I was anticipating it to be. A lot of people say like it's right down the road, which technically it is, but I mean, it's much further down the road. And especially with a lot of the traffic added to it, because it's right now, I don't know if like it'll kind of flush out like as time goes on and as the park is open, but since it's like the brand new shiny thing over at Universal, it's like the traffic there is so congested that the buses are intermixed with the regular daily traffic, and it takes so much longer to go from point A to point B. Yeah,
and Universal does have an advantage compared to what we have out here, is that they have that land Epic Universe sits on has hundreds of acres that they haven't even touched yet. Yeah. They could build 2 parks over there, you know what I'm saying? So they can build their own little sustainable, like a second resort over there. You know, we're out here, like you were saying, Bricky, like if you do the Angel Stadium, you're just building a park and it's a tight fit with a long drive, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I mean, I just would think that like if they were going to build another park, it would be Toy Story, just because of this that I've illustrated. And I would think that if, you know, down the road, I could see the city of Anaheim being like, we're moving the convention center to where Angel Stadium is to allow that space to become more theme park, just because the Angel Stadium location would actually be better for a convention center because it's right off the highway. Right. And it would allow people in and out. And I don't know, like, I know at Magic Kingdom, Disney World, everything's spread out, but it's also spread out on their own property. So they're able to create like, the turns and the flows. It's like out here, it's like if you did a park hopper and I'm like, hey guys, okay, I'll meet you guys over at the Angel Park. And I'm like, oh man, I got caught in traffic, so I'm just going to go home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it would just be a nightmare. And that's the reason why buses suck. Like the friendship boats, the monorail, the Disneyland the Disney World Skyliner, like any guest transportation that has its own proprietary track is true transportation. When you got to get in a bus at Port Orleans and you got to stop at the next hotel and the next hotel and then eventually get you to Epcot, that's bullshit, man. That's not how I'm doing my vacation. I'm going to Uber 10 out of 10 times. But like, I just think that if they have a way to make everything touch, they're going to make everything touch because that's the way that it's always been here. And it would be very disruptive. Like, think about how wild it would have been if Disney Sea was literally down the street from my house and Disneyland was over there, and then they built DCA. Like, wouldn't Disney Sea just feel like a complete outlier in Long Beach?
Oh, it'd be really weird. It'd be really weird. One more thing. You haven't been to Universal Studios Hollywood, right?
I have never ever been to any Universal park ever.
I would love to see your analysis of Hollywood, specifically just because the way they use, because it's a working studio, very much so. Everyone films there, Disney, all of them, right? It's a working studio. It's on a hill, and then they weave the theme park in. I would love to see your breakdown about like the design work and stuff and how they integrated all that together. Oh man, I think it'd be an amazing video, Ricky.
Let me let you in on a little secret. I watched friends' videos go there, and I go, "That looks like shit. Don't need to do it. I'm not going to ride an escalator. I'm not riding an escalator all day." And I thought about it. I'm like, the longer you don't go, the bigger of a deal it is when you do go. So like my rainy day content strategy is one day I'll be like, guess what, guys? Coming up next month, for the first time ever, I'm going to Knott's Berry Farm. Guess what, guys? For the first time ever, I'm going to go to Universal Hollywood Studios. Like, I'm literally like holding it in a vault when like rainy day, break it open. Yeah, it's just like, here's the thing. I grew up with a learning disability, and I have to be like really, really into something to learn about it. And so I know the Disneyland story so well, and I can pontificate about all these things because I have spent thousands of hours reading and researching and living. When I go there, I'm fucking Clark Kent sitting in that diner going, what the fuck did I do? I was Superman, and to bang this chick, I gave up my superpowers, and now I'm just a jerk off sitting in a diner, and these guys are bullying me. You know what I mean? So like the moment I go through there, I'm just another guy going, wee, escalator.
Oh man, yeah, those escalators, dude, they're crazy. Go ahead, George.
Really quick, I want to go back to what you were saying about like with the Angel Stadium and everything. Now with D23 at the Anaheim Convention Center now moving forward, they now attach the Honda Center now to that for the bigger presentations. Obviously, I've been to the Honda Center since attending D23, but I have not yet been to Angel Stadium. I know like the area around. Is Angel Stadium close to the Honda Center as far as if they were to move the convention over there?
Yes. It's close, but it's far away because on one side of the highway, you have OC Vibe and the Honda Center. On the other side of the highway, you have Angel Stadium. But because everybody hates the guy that owns the Angels, he's not a part of OC Vibe. He's completely on his own. And they use the highway as a natural like separation so he doesn't get any of the juice from that project. Because the city literally hates that guy. It is the worst stadium in baseball. And it's just like, I mean, he couldn't sell it out when he had Ohtani. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just one of those things that's worth so much money, but just suffers from really bad management. So yeah, it is close, but because there's a major highway that runs between the two of them, it's further than what it feels like. However, if you were going to shuttle people back and forth, that is very easy, because I went to D23 and I went to the thing at the Honda Center, and it felt like I did two different things with my weekend.
Yeah.
It didn't have the same flow of like, I'm in D23, I'm in DCA, I'm back at D23, I'm chilling at a friend's hotel, I'm going to Disneyland. Like, when it's all connected, it feels great. The moment I got to get my car out, and I walked over to the Honda Center from D23. I'm like, I'm not riding a shitty bus. I'm going to walk. And then on the way back, it was like getting an Uber was like impossible. I had to walk to like a gas station, which basically looked like Fire Island or Fire Fest. Fire Island's a whole different vibe where dudes look like George with a shirt unbuttoned. But it looked like Fire Fest, which is like everybody with like a phone trying to get a bar to get an Uber to pick them up. So yeah, I mean, it worked, but it's a little spread out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Bricky, it's always an honor having you on. Always honor having you on, talking shop, nerding out with you. I absolutely love it.
So does this mean that I don't get a breakdown of my video from Saturday? Like, does this count as that breakdown? And I don't get the breakdown?
We gotta do that one day. We gotta do a Hey Bricky reaction video with Hey Bricky.
I would love it. Yeah. I mean, well, real quick, one thing I wanted to say before we part ways. When I made the video about Avatar, because I was working on a time constraint, the park renderings that I showed were like a little bit off scale and a little bit too big. And I wasn't saying like, hey, this is the park they're going to build. But the idea is that a natural green space will separate Hollywood from Avatar, giving them the ability to say we added more to the park. And a natural green space would be very, very productive in that, like, that sells food, that sells the food festivals. Like, they kind of need a transitional space. And if they ever want to get into renting out the Avatar area as a private space, like they have done for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the more closed off it is and the more like garden space that's out front, the easier it is to kind of make it like, hey, it's a capacity. You have to wait here in the garden. So even though the Hollywood backlot is kind of dysfunctional, it does work well as a food and beverage and community space. And I don't know that they would want to give all of that away, especially if it creates the proper space for Avatar, because what I don't want are those shitty tunnels at Disney Hollywood Studios that you're like, Muppets Land, Galaxy's Edge. Like, that is such a non-Disney transition.
Oh yeah, no, that's the one thing about Hollywood Studios. I was like, this is terrible. When you go into Galaxy's Edge, and that's why it makes me appreciate Disneyland's even more. The way they integrated it into the Rivers of America. I know they cut our river a little short and stuff, but it was worth it to get it right. Yeah.
Only made it better. And like I said earlier in the conversation, when you look at the finesse that the California parks get, that finesse does not exist on the East Coast at most of the time. So I have good faith that, it's a California park, it's James Cameron, it's Avatar. I think it's going to be pretty sick. And I think the people are going to be really surprised at how they put it in there. I know I will be. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, and we're going to get nighttime Pandora every single night, unlike Animal Kingdom.
It's so hard to see that thing at night. I've only ever been in there once at night. It is so hard to see it at night because of how early that park goes. Because all the poor little animals have to go beddy by time.
Exactly. Dude, I was blown away by that park. That was so funny. We're there, and George and I are walking around, right? And I'm already in love with this place because, I'm a vibes guy. And this park is nothing but vibes. And I'm walking through this park, and George is like, well, what do you want to do next? I'm like, I don't know, dude. Wherever you want to go, And he goes, well, you want to go on the train? I'm like, this park has a fucking train? That's awesome.
Same. And then it takes you to Rafiki's parking lot. And you're like, all right, this is the most bullshit train ride I've ever been on before.
Yeah, but the train looks pretty dope. It's like a cross between the Disneyland Railroad and like the Jungle Cruise or something.
Yeah, no, I was like, whoa, there's a train here. My buddy was like, yeah. I'm like, I can't believe it. Where's it going? He's like, just get on it and see. And then like we're in the woods and then we're going by where all the people park. And I'm like, the fuck is this? And we got off at Rafiki's Planet Watch petting zoo, and I'm like, this is a bullshit train ride, man.
It was so anticlimactic, cool train, but
yeah.
I really hope they do something with that space that it gives the train
a purpose.
Purpose, yes, for people to actually get on and say, okay, we're hyping this thing up, you know, where are we going? And Rafiki's Planet Watch is so late.
It's whack. It's very whack. I love Animal Kingdom. I think it's maybe best favorite part other than Epcot. But there's one observation I have about it. It's the only Disney park that is one note the whole way through.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like it's all kind of like decayed and destroyed and has, you know, patina and texture through it. And other than Avatar, it's kind of the same everywhere you go, which is weird because we're going from all these different countries. They're just like, yeah, but we're going to focus on like the rundown part of all these countries. And it also has surprisingly the most bizarre grand entry of any Disney park I've ever been to. Like it's so bizarre. And I often debate, is it a big miss or is it a big win? Because like, don't get me wrong, the Tree of Life is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
There's not really like an architectural building that says you made it and you're there, right? Like the buildings in that courtyard, I mean, purposely, they're meant to not steal the thunder. You know what I mean? Like they're not wearing white to a wedding, that type of mentality. But I just feel like that village could use a little something more special to be like, man, there's the Tree of Life and we made it to Animal Kingdom. It just kind of feels like, okay. You know, like it's just, it's a very odd grand entryway.
No, you're right. And one of the things too, when you talk about one note, that's also one of the reasons why when I first went there, it's kind of like, it takes a little while to get used to the park, like, cause everything looks the same.
Yeah.
So you have to like kind of catch your bearings, like where am I at? Where is this now? Like, cause everything looks the same. So it's easy to get lost in there.
Yeah. And the other area that looked very different was Dino Land. And, you know, like once somebody explains to you the story of that area, like Dino Land was actually like a very amazing story and build out, but somebody had to explain it to you. And then it was like over the top of most people's heads, it was over the top of my heads. But like with that going more like the South America vibe, I feel like it's going to be even more like you kind of don't know where you're at. You know what I mean? Like a little bit more to the one note thing, but I don't know, man. Just bring back kite tails.
Yeah, exactly. Bring it back. Absolutely bring it back. So we can watch balloon Simba, you know, face plant every day, you know?
Yeah. Death by outdoor amphitheater. Every single day.
Exactly. So, Bricky, thank you so much for coming on, brother. We do appreciate you. Thank you so much. And if you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
You can find me over my main channel, Hey Bricky, where I show up every Saturday. And then it seems that I show up daily over on the Bricky vlog. Appreciate you coming over there and hanging out with me and seeing what we get up to.
Absolutely. I'll link everything down below. Make sure you subscribe and follow to both Hey Bricky and the Bricky vlog. George the Italiano, and your chest here. Where can everybody find you guys on social media?
Absolutely. Well, you can find us both right here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes bricky news and info. I'm so glad I used the right finger. And you can also find me on my YouTube channel, Citrico Central, sister channel to Orange Grove 55.
There he is. Everybody comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today. We would love to hear from you. And until next time, see you later.
Don't forget to subscribe to OG55 and become a member today.